Hello, welcome back to Curry Girl Tech Talk. I'm Krystal Curry. Thank you for joining us. Today is part 2 of our conversation on harnessing the power of AI. I am so excited to jump right back into our conversation. I'm talking tech today with Gregory Richardson, our special guest.
How do you figure out, as both a business person and as a consumer, person working in a company or whatever, how can AI solve problems for me or make me more efficient at solving problems? Let me dig into that kind of deeply for you right now. AI is good at a lot of things. Without going too much into the technical weeds, we can. If you ask follow-up questions on it, I'll go as deep as you and your audience would like me to go. But without going too deep into it, there's probably 3 or 4 key areas where AI really excels. One of them is what I would call prediction. We touched on that earlier. And prediction is you take a lot of data, this happens at this time, and this is how many times it's happened at that time, and you can predict, listen, we've seen for the last 10 years, it always rains in June. So we now know June is the rainy season, so we can predict this month, next year, it's going to be a lot of rain. Weather people have been doing this for decades, and they've been using AI for it, FYI. So, that's one thing that AI does really well. Why? Because it's taking a lot of data and it's running calculations on it. So you're going to see that big data term come up. So predictions is one of them. Next one that AI, so I'm suggesting to you, if you have something that you're doing on your job, that it would be helpful to take the data that you have and build a prediction on it so you can tell your boss, hey, listen, we've seen this. We've been in business for 10 years, and we see that every year, the sales go up at this time, so we should probably get more stock for that time. We could predict it. Like, that's a use case that you could build out using AI. So that's prediction. So anywhere you see an opportunity where predictions could help you, that's probably something you could apply in AI. The next one that AI is really, really, really good at is classification. So you take 10 things: bottle, cup, black cup, white cup, yellow cup, orange cup, and a bottle. AI is very good at looking at the data of those things and saying, listen, cup, black, yellow, orange, white, and bottle. These are all the same. This is different. Classification. Classifying what looks similar here, what has similar traits, and what's different. Where do we see use cases of that in AI constantly? I gave you one with predictions, weather. Let's give you an example of where classification is used. Spam filtering, as well as virus filtering. So most, if not all, antivirus tools that exist now in the marketplace use AI to classify, all of these files look very similar to other files that we saw doing bad things, therefore this file is probably bad. This email that came in your inbox or in your text, it looks like other texts or other emails that we've seen that people have told us this is spam. So I'm going to tell you right now, your phone will tell you, I'm going to classify this as spam. It's probably spam. You probably don't want to be looking at it. That classification is AI. Why? They give it 1 million emails and say, listen, I can tell you up front, Mr. AI, all of these emails are bad and all of these are good. So now when you give it more emails, it can look and compare very quickly in microseconds and say, hey, this email that you're now giving me, does it look more like the bad ones? Look more like the good ones. So classification is another one. The last thing, I promised 3 or 4, and I'm going to stop it at 3, that AI is super useful for: summarization. Text classification, text summarization. And that's one of the places we see lots of tools. Grammarly, Scholarly, candidly, that's what ChatGPT is doing to a certain extent as well. And that is looking at a block of text, a body of text, and summarizing it. So there's literal tools out there right now that you can say, and back in our day, you would have, what's the name of the little books that were summaries of big books? Notes. Like if you needed to read a book, Jonah's Ark.
Oh, Cliff Notes.
Thank you, Cliff Notes. Exactly, Cliff Notes. That's what I'm talking about. So, whereas back in my day in school, Cliff Notes were a big deal. Now, ChatGPT can do that. You can literally give ChatGPT a PDF with 100 pages and say, summarize that for me. So one of the things I do right now in business for me I look at PDFs which contain information about a company that I'm about to talk to or a customer or whatever. And I tell, hey, this is a 300-page PDF that, was this customer's financial reportings for the last 10 years. Summarize it for me. AI is really, really, really good at taking that block of text and in seconds summarizing it for you. So that you don't need to read 500 pages, but there's a whole business that you could probably build off of that. There's things in your organization, if you work in a library, where you might need to, ingest new books and say, hey, this new book came in, let's put a little description of it up on the website. A long time ago, you'd probably have to read the book.
Right.
Now you could give it to AI and say, listen, these 100 new Kindle books that came in and we're going to be renting them out, make summaries of all of them. AI can do that really, 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 really well. So classification, prediction, summarization. Look for opportunities, and those are not the only ones, but those are some of the biggest places where we see opportunities for you to use AI. As an entrepreneur, look for an opportunity to use one of those three to build a business on. As a consumer, as a person working in a job, look for one of those three to make you more efficient at your job so that you become invaluable, so that you become, I'm not, AI is going to take my job. I'm the guy using AI to do an even better job so that my boss is like, we can't lose Krystal. Right. Even if they don't even know it's AI. She's pumping out 12 times as much work as she used to. Right. We can't lose Krystal. How is this possible? Right. So you want to be in that position.
That's right.
At your job or when building a business or when doing business. That's how you, at least, maybe you won't stay ahead of the curve, but you'll at least stay in pace with the curve. Because sitting back and saying, no, I've always liked typewriters, so I'm going to just stick with my old typewriter. Unless you're
too far, huh?
It ain't gonna get you too far. Unless you were chilling out and you're already independently wealthy and you're about to retire, then do you. No, I'm being serious. Then you could do that. I'm not at that stage in my life yet. I got bills to pay. I got kids to put through college. I gotta keep up with whatever the job market and the business market is doing, and I gotta bring something to the table that makes me unique. That makes me representative of the God that created me.
Oh my gosh, I think that's wonderful. Awesome. Let's have some fun here. All right, I was playing around with ChatGPT, and I wanted to get a name for this actual podcast. And I decided I was going to feed it a couple terms. And I just gave the words curry girl, I'm referring to myself, and podcast. And here are some of the examples of what it generated. Spice of Life, the Curry Girl podcast. And then the other one was Sizzling Conversations, Curry Girls podcast. And Culinary Chronicles, the Curry Girl podcast. And Flavors Unleashed, a podcast by Curry Girl. And then Taste and Talk, Curry Girls Culinary Podcast. What do you think about those titles?
Extremely good usage of AI. So you've actually, remember I said 3 or 4 things? That was the 4th one. So the 4th thing that AI does really well, and it's probably the AI that is most well known to people. The 3 that I mentioned, classification, prediction, and text summarization, less popular, less well known. The one that's really, really, really well known, which is why I skipped it, is text creation. So text generation, and that's called generative AI. Right. Now, how does generative AI work? This is phenomenal for a podcast like this. General AI uses a technology, which is a subset of AI, that's called LLM, Large Language Model. So that model has been trained, and you're going to see some terms coming up again that we've used before. That model has been trained on language. Let's hypothetically say the English language. So it has been given books and PDFs and web pages, like petabytes of data has been given to this thing to classify. So now it's looked at them and it's trained and it says, okay, these are books. These are our podcast titles. These are book titles. These are book paragraphs. This is prose. This is poem. This is apocalyptic. This is, whatever, poet, all kinds of, this is a music. So it's been trained on that so it can classify what the different types of language is, and so that it can do something with it. The next thing that generative AI has been trained on is prediction. But what's it predicting? What word would fit well after this word. So if I give you the word curry, what's another good word that goes well right after curry? It can predict that because it's been trained on a million other books and podcasts and record labels and whatever else where they've used, okay, curry, you want to use spice, you want to use taste, you want to use flavor. So it's generating good options for you on what other people, and it's not copying their work, but it's just saying, listen, I've seen spice, curry, and flavor used in the same sentence a billion times. People like it. They go well together. So that's another use case for AI. And I use that myself with Claude or ChatGPT or whichever one of the AI models. I use that myself to get past the blank page problem that authors often have. So if I'm writing a podcast or whatever, I'll tell, or a blog post or a newsletter, I'll tell ChatGPT, hey, here's a 20-minute talk that I gave on so-and-so and so-and-so. Change that into a newsletter for me. Mm-hmm. And now it'll give something, I'll read it. Now, rather than starting from a blank white page, I got some thoughts there and I could say, okay, that don't sound nothing like me, but the title is good. This middle part is decent. I'm gonna change this out, and now I can make it sound like me. But yeah, so that use case, text generation use case, that's a phenomenal one. If you work in a space where you need to come up with things, think marketing, think anything where you're writing a lot, text generation is a very useful tool.
It's very useful. And I got a kick out of it because I thought, oh my goodness, it's making a play on my last name.
Yeah.
It's obviously taking curry, and it made a humorous, some really good titles, Spice of Life.
And you could have taken that, you could still take that, and you could take it a step further and say, all right, you gave it some terms, is what you said you did, and you gave it your name, you gave it podcast, you said what the podcast is about. You can also say, take those terms that you've come up with, and keep in mind that it's a more technical audience. So now it'll focus more on the technical and make it more serious and less humorous. So it'll stop doing that play on curry and spice, and might take the curry out and say, listen, we're going to be the AI podcast with seasoning in it or whatever have you. Like it. But AI text generation is miraculously good at that. It doesn't create text from beginning to end, like for a book or podcast or a blog or whatever, but it gets you a good starting point so that you can be like, here's some good ideas. I could use this as so-and-so and so.
Yeah,
and yes,
absolutely.
The name ActaScribe was absolutely, my wife and I start a lot of businesses. We're serial entrepreneurs. We have catering companies. We're doing a ranch. We have car rental business. Like we have a lot of businesses, and we often will be walking around and see something. Oh, we could solve that with a business, and then we start a business. One of the things businesses often struggle with is we got to get a name and a brand and all that kind of stuff. ActaScribe, I could tell you about 2 years ago, I went to ChatGPT and said, listen, I'm going to create an application that does text transcription. It's going to be very accurate. It's going to be very how do I say, unbiased. And I want to, actually I told it, and I want to bring to mind, a lot of biblical themes in it because, I'm a Bible nerd, Bible hacker. So that's where it came up with scribe, but scribe is a biblical term. So it came up with accurate, acta, scribe. And I was like, I really like that.
Yeah.
And I think the thing it came up with was accurate scribe. And I was like, we're going to cut that to acta. But yeah, so using generative AI to just process some ideas so that you can narrow it down. Absolutely good use case and good opportunity for someone to build a business on. Like there's 10 businesses roaming around in there.
Yeah. I thought, now this is a good one. I thought I was perusing social media, and one of the things that came up on my page was the King Center. I follow them on social media, and they have an AI implementation of Reverend Dr. Bernice King welcoming people to the King Center. And it's an AI version of her. It looks like her. It sounds just like her, but you see the visual that it's definitely like an AI version of it. And I'm super impressed. I think that it was superior quality. The digital version is just awesome. What kind of tools generate that kind of thing? Have you seen it?
Yes, that's the same thing. That's called multimodal generative AI. So generative AI generates content for you, and we just spoke through the example with the name for the podcast of it generating text for you. But you can all multimodal means you don't need to generate in that modality. So you can also generate in video. You can also generate in image. You can also generate in 1 million images, which is how you would make a video. So I'm not going to remember the name of it. Soros, I think is the name of it. Is the video generation AI, generative AI by ChatGPT, by OpenAI. I don't think it's launched yet, but they have example videos that it made, and it makes full movie quality videos. So that's the same generative AI, but it's generating 1 million pictures rather than just a couple of words on the screen. What the King Center did is an implementation of a video-based AI. So it's generating AI voice. So it was trained on probably the voice of Ms. King. It was probably trained on what are the writings she did. Did she write letters? Did she write books? Did she write? It trained on all that, so it has a flavor for, hey, this is her tone. This is what she would say. This is how she would say it. And then you limit the AI and say, listen, only answer using her tone, so that it doesn't go crazy and say some things that it shouldn't say. So yeah, that's technology that's very readily available as well. Since we're in Dallas, I'm not a football, basketball, or baseball fan, so no disrespect to any team. There is an AI Jerry as well.
Oh my goodness!
That's up at what's the name of the stadium? The AT&T Stadium, the Cowboy Stadium, where you can go and sit and you go in a little box or whatever. I think you pay $50, and there's a visual. It looks like Jerry. And you can ask it questions like, why did you, fire the quarterback? I don't know. The face moves just like Jerry. And they went, because it's semi-humorous, so they went with a face that authentically looks just like Jerry. It looks just like Jerry they're talking to you. It's a full avatar of Jerry. So you can see, and that's, once football season starts again, you'll be able to go there and pay whatever it costs and have that done. So yeah, that technology exists now. I'll give you an interesting use case for that type of technology. The two things we said are, well, the King one is that's a serious one. The Jerry one is definitely humorous. I'll give you one where a group I know has been working on it. They haven't solved this yet. Pick I'll give you a good scholar. Here you go. The guy from the Reformation, Martin Luther. Martin Luther dies, but he has books and books and books he wrote. Wouldn't it be great if we could go back and ask him his opinion on XYZ? Yeah. We can now. You could build an AI that's trained on every word Martin Luther ever wrote.
Right.
And ask for its opinion based on exclusively every word Martin Luther ever wrote. What would Martin Luther say about so and so and so and so? There's a friend of mine. He was a personal mentor. He passed away from cancer about a year ago. And his family's trust is now seeing if they can he wrote hundreds, if not thousands of books. That's all he did. He was a professor in university, so he wrote a lot of white papers, did a lot of research. Maybe we could take all his research and ingest it into an AI and have people still be able to ask him questions. There's some serious use cases for generative AI
and
as well.
I think that's an awesome tribute to him and a way to acknowledge his contributions and
I see that as the museums or the I don't know what to call them, those statues. So if you go to DC, there's statues all over the place of, Abraham Lincoln and blah. I could see this as future iterations of that. So you go to the statue of Lincoln, you go to the Thomas Memorial or whatever have you, and there's a little window where you can ask it some questions. Hey, what would Abraham Lincoln think about, this political thing that we have now? And it can answer. Yeah. So someone's probably working on that as we speak.
All right, I have one last personal story about artificial intelligence. I am at my parents' home, and my dad actually is working on his laptop. And I hear him yell for me, and I hurry in the room, and he says, "This artificial intelligence thing popped up on my computer," and he's referring to Copilot. And he says, "I want to test to see if it can help me with my home renovation." And at that point, we started to input different things about what he is looking at in terms of a home renovation. He wants to renovate his kitchen and some other components of the house. And he knows all the measurements, of course, because he's already been out there with his tape measure, and my mom's been giving him instruction on how she wants. And it took us maybe 10 minutes. Copilot actually generated this plan for him step by step on what he needed to do to complete his home renovation. And I would say that he was pleasantly surprised and asked me to save it and was like, this is my starting point.
That's the same similar use case. And remember, I like to break things up into small buckets. So we had those kind of 4 AI buckets: classification, prediction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That text generative or generative AI bucket, this falls into that bucket. So the Copilot, which is trained on OpenAI, so it's trained on the same thing that ChatGPT is trained on, has been trained on a lot of content. It's probably seen content about other, kitchen renovation plans or other room renovation plans. So when you say, hey, I need to do a room renovation of a room that's, XYZ large and, can't be any larger than this, and I want it to have a lot of sun, it can think up and reference all of the other types of designs it's on, give you a starting point.
Yeah.
So it's another excellent business opportunity or use case for using AI to be more effective.
Yeah. All right. Before we finish out the podcast for today, any other tools or advice that you want to give the audience on artificial intelligence?
I'll give you a couple of things that would probably be of use. So we all know about ChatGPT. Well, I won't say all. I won't generalize like that. But ChatGPT is fairly popular. There are other engines just like ChatGPT. One that I like a lot because it allows you to give it more information, a larger context window, is Claude. So I would open up to your audience, go and try out Claude AI. Another one is Llama, like the animal, LLAMA, and this one is called Llama 3. That's the AI made by Facebook. So if you use like an Instagram where you do search now, it says Meta search, that's using the Llama engine.
Cool.
So you have other options. You don't need to use only ChatGPT. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll bounce the same question off of the 3 AIs and see which, I'll take a piece out of one, a piece out of another, a piece out of the other. So, I would suggest to your audience, use other tools outside of the most popular ones. Lots of them are available. They're all competing for your dollar, so all of them will have something similar. And I'll also offer up to your audience, I've mentioned it a couple of times already, ActiScribe, my app. I'll say for your audience, if they sign up and send an email when you sign up and say, hey, we heard about this on Krystal's podcast, I'll give you a month free. Anyone in the audience that emails and says, hey, I signed up, I heard about this on the Krystal podcast, you get a month for free. So
all right. Thank you.
It's another tool that your audience can use. Or
All
at least
right,
test out
guys.
for free.
You better take advantage of that. Doesn't get any better than free, a month free.
Facts.
That's awesome. We're going to upload all of the tools that were suggested today by Gregory on our website. And we're going to list also Gregory's website. You can get him at www.gregoryrichandson.ai. He is absolutely amazing, as you can see. www.gregoryrichandson.ai. And go and check out his tools. We'll list all the other AI tools. There are plenty of other tools that I plan to list on the website.
So these are great tools that you can give your audience access to. This is a great podcast. I wish you the best of luck, Krystal. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that you enjoyed today's discussion. This episode was power-packed with loads of information, actionable strategies, and tools. Don't worry if you didn't catch the entire list. You can reference the full list of AI tools at currygirltechtalk.com, where you can also find video of my conversation with Gregory. There are many time-saving and life-enhancing tools, from resume writing to auto creation of study guides and flashcards. Now, parents, I know that school is starting soon. There are some really impressive tools that can actually help students. We do not guarantee that these tools will work for you. However, don't be afraid to tinker with them and consider leveraging them for yourself and for the greater good. Whether it's a college essay, home renovation project, or leading a world-class organization promoting world peace, there is something for you. And don't forget the transcription service at actiscribe.ai. Gregory is offering our audience a month free. Use a referral link on our website at currygirltechtalk.com. If you missed episode 1, we are in the midst of an AI giveaway. If you would like to participate, visit the website at currygirltechtalk.com and enter to win. Thank you for joining the podcast today. I'm Krystal Curry. Take care.